What up, what up? This is Matt James, all the way from Canada. How's she going, eh? And you're listening to Furious on Deeper Than Music.
Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth. It's deeper than music, deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music, deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth. It's deeper than music, deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music, deeper than music.
Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. Deeper Than Music Radio. Behind every great song, there's an even greater story. I like to say hello to everybody listening to us on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the other podcasting platforms that we're broadcasted on. So today we have a very special treat. You can't even call her a triple threat. I mean, there's so many things that this woman has done. Comedian, clothing technician, actress, been in film, television, and theater. Worked with brands as Eileen Fisher, Roca. She was Miss New York. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the one and only Wendy Stuart Kaplan here on Deeper Than Music Radio. How you doing?
Hey, Marcus, it's really great to be here.
Oh, thank you for taking the time to be on the show. I imagine with all the hats you wear that you're a very busy person.
Do you know what I say, Marcus? So many hats, so little time, right? Just not enough hours in the day.
Yeah, I could imagine. And that leads me to one of your first questions, because just everything that you do, and one of the things that I constantly have to work on is time management. So what is the key to your success? Like, what is the success of you just balancing all the many hats that you wear?
You know, just some people, Marcus, can just do it, right? I'm a juggler, and I'm a really, really good juggler. And I try and explain this to people. My brain is like Windows on a computer, right? You got what I'm saying? Yeah. So each window, right, represents something different that I do. And I can close one out and bring one up and flesh it out and close it out and bring it up again. I'm very organized. I'm a Capricorn. And I'm really good at just spreading myself all over the place. But again, you know, for someone like me, I'm so curious, which is why I have so many platforms that I work on.
Wow. And so I guess it's like your curiosity led you to the many different platforms and hat that you wear.
Absolutely. When, you know, I came to New York to be a model, but prior to that, I was living in Nigeria, if you can believe that, in a village called Ife. And I come to New York and I start modeling here, but I never got it out of my head, right, that I wanted to go back to Africa. And lo and behold, I won Best Documentary at the Chelsea Film Festival for a film I made with my partner, Eileen Kaplan, in Africa. It's called Whispers and Witnesses, Primate Rescue in Cameroon. So you see, everything comes 360 degrees. I would have never thought that I would have ended up doing that. And I'm back to the things that mean most to me, the things that are important in my heart.
Wow. So were you you weren't originally from Nigeria, correct?
No. Oh my gosh. Are you kidding? You know, they say some children are born of the town and some children are born of the world. I was born in the Bronx.
Okay.
I loved growing up in the Bronx, right? It was a great fit. I had great friends, but I always, like, deep down inside knew that I was an explorer, that I was an adventurer. And I remember telling my mom as a little kid that people would say, what do you want to be when you would going to grow up? And I would say, oh, I'm definitely going to be a model and I'm going to travel to Africa.
Wow. And then an opportunity presented itself and you were out there in Africa and you got to do.
When I was in college in upstate New York, State University at Binghamton, they had a Black Studies department and they were doing a trip over to Africa to go to school there and live in a village called Ife. And I thought, okay, so this is my calling. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm a person that really pays attention to, like, callings and signs and trying to do what you're supposed to do in life, right? Not going against the grain at all, just going with the flow.
So I'd imagine, basically what you're just telling me is like you're very in tune to your intuition.
Totally.
And I feel like that navigated you throughout your life and this wonderful journey of your life.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. still navigating me, Marcus. I mean, there's not a day that goes by that, people are like, well, what's next? What are you going to do? And I'm like, it will come to me. I will know what the next thing is. If like you look at where I've gone, right? Model, actress, spokesperson, brand ambassador, stand-up comedian, sketch comedian, many different levels that I've hit, and it's because I'm open to everything. And I tell people this all the time, I don't have a filter. The filter, right, is the thing that will often create fear. If you have fear, you're not going to go for it, and I'll go for everything. I'm not afraid of failing. I've failed, that's just part of life. I wrote a book called She's the Last Model Standing, and that is about my journey. Actually, my book opens up in Nigeria, in the area where the Boko Haram were. I was a college student with long waist-length blonde hair and hitchhiking around there. Not a care in the world. Right. Crazy stuff now, right, when you think about it? Because it wasn't so safe then either. All right, mm-hmm. But I always felt, and I still feel, I have an angel on my shoulder and somebody always guiding me. So I wrote about this in my book, She's the Last Model Standing, which will take you through everything that I've done in my life.
And so it's like you're very open to the world and you have no fear. And I'm glad that you say that you don't fear failing, because what people my take on failing is maybe the plan wasn't right. Or maybe your time wasn't there, and in order to succeed, you have to fail, right? I mean, it's better to fail and try than not try at all.
Right, but a lot of people won't try it all, right? That fear factor, if you want to call it that, is so huge. It makes people not want to try. Honestly, Marcus, I'll try anything. I will absolutely try anything because it's an experience, right? I told you I'm curious. It's a life experience. I want to smell, taste, live everything that's around me. I really believe, we're on this earth to live our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you mentioned something, and I was going to ask, with all these hats, all these things you did, so it started with modeling.
Yes, it did.
Okay. And then and you said that you're a clothing technician. I'm not familiar with that term. What is a clothing technician?
That's a whole thing that nobody's familiar with that. So, all right, the title of my book is She's the Last Model Standing. It's a metaphor, right? Last model standing meaning, I've been doing this a long time. I'm still modeling, right? How many people have come and gone? But the metaphor about last model standing is the clothing technician thing, because a large portion of the modeling that I do is called fit modeling. So I work with major designs and brands to help them make their clothing fit regular people.
Oh, wow. That's
cool, right?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then I wanted to ask you, like, what are the dimensions of a regular person? Well,
here's where your intuition comes in, your smarts come in. I'm a size 8, and I'm considered a standard size 8, right? Yeah. But I have to look at a garment that's designed, and let's just say it's to fit like Middle America, for example. Okay. I have to figure out how to make that garment look really good in smaller sizes and make that garment look really good in larger sizes. How am I going to make the armholes on it, right? Nobody wants to be wearing a straitjacket. You have to allow enough room for people to lift their arms, right? Especially with women, sometimes they don't want things too low cut, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to really know measurements, numbers, how low to make that neckline. So if a designer comes to me, they'll have a sketch and they will have a concept, and they'll say, can you take this and make this fit a regular person? Often that sketch or concept will come from the runways of Paris, where everything that they put on the models, those models are like size 2 and 16 years old. That's not realistic. That's not human beings in the world, right?
Yeah.
Every person that wears something that I've worked on to be the best they can possibly be, to feel the best about themselves. I'm all about making positive changes in people's lives that way. So that's what a clothing technician does. I also call myself a clothing doctor.
Oh, and what's a clothing doctor? That's another interesting term.
my clothing doctor. Well, okay, so sometimes like you'll go into a store and what brands do you like? Tell me what designers you like for you.
I like mainly I like Kenneth Cole.
Okay, Kenneth Cole's a good one because that's what I call an average brand, right? That Kenneth Cole fits a lot of people. But you may go in there and, there may be a bunch of shirts that when you go to button them up, you feel like you're choking in them, right?
Yeah.
If that happens, that means a mistake was made or the way the factory did it, in which case they will call the clothing doctor in. That's me, who has to analyze what the problem is and how they need to correct that going forward. I tell you, making clothing that fits, Marcus, is such a highly technical thing. People have no idea.
And I was going to ask you, like, for that, what kind of, because as you were speaking, I'm like, okay, what are the skill sets that are needed? Is it math, being real visual, a little bit of engineering?
You are so smart about this. Now, you see, you didn't know what a clothing technician was, but you know more than you think because you are an engineer. I have to engineer all different kinds of fabrics. I have to engineer knits. I have to figure out, how the pattern often needs to be made so that we can get the best fit on it. So that takes engineering. It also takes smarts, all right? Clients, brands need to know who's their customer. Okay, if your customer is a woman in her 40s, you're not going to take that garment off the runway that the 16-year-old girl wore, okay, and offer that up to your client. You have to know how to modify it. And to modify it, you have to be instinctive, all right? You have to be smart. And you really have to have a knowledge of clothing. And I pore over fashion magazines. I love fashion. But you know what else I do, Marcus? When I go to a mall, I take a look and I want to see what people are wearing. I actually follow women around in the mall. Can you believe that?
Well, I you know what? With this, you have like so much. I imagine everything that you do is very attention to detail orientated. Yeah. So I can imagine that, like you pay attention to people, and then just the details.
It's details, right? They count. But here's the downside of what I do. Try and get a contractor to work with me, okay? Because if they're hanging cabinets and that cabinet door is off even 1/8 of an inch, I'm going to see it. That makes me a pain in the neck.
And then you worked with like Eileen Fisher, Roca Wear, London Fog.
Yep. Well, I've had all these big clients, and currently, yes, Eileen Fisher is one of my clients. Speigel, Walmart, and it's the same for all my clients. I have to produce the best fitting garment, and if garments go into stores and they sell, that's what you want. If people order them online, okay, and they get them and they fit, then the client's happy. Then I've done my job well.
So, like, some of these companies are like, I guess to say they're like opposite, like they're not all the same. Do you have a different, like a different ingredient for each brand? Like, okay, I'm going to London Fog. This is my formula for this one. Roca Wear, that was my formula.
Right. Again, a great question, right? Roca Wear, super hip, right?
Yeah.
A brand like that doesn't care so much if the clothing is a little tight because their customer wants that clothing to fit a little tight. Someone like Eileen Fisher, we want clothing that the woman feels beautiful in, but that will, graze over her body, make her look attractive, even if she's gained a couple of extra pounds. So every different brand I work with, every designer I work with, I have to listen. I have to have good listening skills.
Oh, I have
to have good knowledge of who their customer is too.
Wow, you said one thing that was important, and I was like, you're right. You have to listen,
right?
And and unfortunately in life, I feel, especially with social media, it's a skill set that's diminishing.
Social media, it's basically a one-way train because it's words being written out. Okay, but you're not. There's two things lost, right? The ears listening and the eye contact.
Yeah.
And that's really tragic when you think about it. Like if I were to meet you and you were to tell me what you like to wear and we went shopping together. Oh, this is a great idea, Marcus. We should go shopping together. You told me friends who like me would go to the mall, and I would listen to what you told me, and I would make recommendations to you. Like you told me Kenneth Cole, and I can tell that would be good for you. Okay. But there might be another designer you're looking at that I'd say, you know what, Marcus, you're a little broad in the shoulders for them. You might not be good for you. But I would look and I would listen. And that's what you have to be able to do.
You know what, Wendy? I'm going to take you up on that offer because I do go to New York quite often. So
we're going to have a shopping trip together. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, we're going to make that happen. You guys heard that on Deeper Than Music Radio. So you went from being a model, and then from being a model, that's when acting came into the forefront?
Yeah, so I'm still modeling, if you can believe this. That's why I call myself the last model standing. It's ridiculous. I've been doing it for 40 years. It's a really long time, and I'm still cranking it out. While I started to do that, it's natural to pair it with acting. You take some acting lessons, and then you get offered film roles. You get offered television commercials. And then while I was doing that, people always said to me, you're a funny girl, whatever that means, right? I have a good sense of humor. So I started to do stand-up comedy. And that's tough because
I was going to ask you, like, out of all the stuff you did, I would imagine comedy would have been the toughest.
Regular comedy in a film, when you have other actors or on stage, it's like so amazing and so much fun, right? But stand-up comedy, think about it. It's 2:00 in the morning. You're at a club. Everybody's drunk. You've been waiting to go on. All right. Maybe there's been 8 other comedians in front of you, right? You got to get your energy up. You got to remember your set, and you have to go out there and kill. And believe it or not, even though you're fully clothed, to me, you are stark naked on that stage. Nobody can save you.
Wow.
It is one of the hardest things to do. And the problem with it is, if you do like film, television, or theater, you've got other actors, you're not necessarily listening for laughs. You shouldn't be listening for laughs, right? But with stand-up comedy, here's the addiction. You put the joke out there and you wait for the response, and sometimes the joke doesn't fly. And it can be as easy as it being, the timing, or it's just late at night, or people are so drunk they could care less that you're up there. They continue to talk while you're there. They're being rude. All right. But either way, you just feel, what is that show, Naked and Alone?
Yeah.
Afraid. Yeah. Marcus, it's like naked, alone, and afraid. That's how you feel.
Man, because I just imagine that, like you said, it has to be the timing is right, and you have to, you have to engage the audience, and then there's the horror stories of the hecklers, right? How do you deal with that? You have a set and there's a heckler.
That's actually happened. And the thing is, also being a woman, stand-up comedy, and any woman comic will tell you this, it's harder for a woman. It really is. People are expecting like sex jokes about dating or this, that, and the other. They don't necessarily want to hear your political platform. So it's definitely a lot more challenging, I think, for women that do stand-up comedy. And for me, where it has come in handy, I do show hosting now, right? Mm-hmm. As a host, I can bring out talent and I can make some jokes about them, and it's great. And then they come out and they do their thing. I recently gave 3 shows, all right? I did this amazing birthday extravaganza here in a club in New York, a Club Bedlam. And I did 3 shows that night, and I emceed all 3 of them, right? Your stand-up stuff comes in really handy because you can get up there and you can make a couple of jokes, but you're introducing another person, right, that's not you. And it's a really good freeing feeling. So you feel a little looser, and you're not worrying so much about what the audience is going to think of you. You're the MC. You're okay. You don't really need their approval. You wouldn't be up there being the MC if you needed their approval. So that's how I've worked stand-up into my regular life. And I have to tell you, it's really working for me now.
I could imagine. And then, like you said, when you're hosting, it's not about you. You're just basically breaking the ice and making it comforting for the person that you're introducing or hosting for.
Yeah, and I love doing that. I love being the support person. I love creating the comfort zone for the talent. I really do. Listen, I love actors. I love comedians. I love people in the entertainment industry. We are an awesome bunch because every day we take incredible risks. Think about it. When you go up on auditions, the amount of rejection, the amount of times I've been rejected would just completely blow your mind. Yet, we just go on. When I go to audition, I don't even think about what happened or how did I do this right? Could I have done it better? I just move on to the next thing. We're really skilled at that. And you only care about the things that you get, right? You only care about the gold rings that you get on the merry-go-round.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and I like that metaphor. Your illustrious career as far as acting, theater, can you tell us what shows have you been in?
Oh, my God. I've done so many theatrical things like off-Broadway. I'm Okay, But You Keep Screwing Me Up. That was a cabaret-style show with sketch comedy, stand-up in it. You can see I definitely lean towards that. That show played for over 11 years. We did the Duplex in New York, the theater at Van Dam. So many off-Broadway theaters here. I do love doing off-Broadway theater here. I most recently did a film that hasn't been released yet. It was an interesting stretch for me, and the film was called Little Things. And I imagine it'll be released in festivals. But the reason it was such a stretch for me, I think I told you I get cast in comedy. In this film, I got to play the mother of a kid that was drug addicted.
Oh,
and
wow.
we get into a knockdown, drag down fight, right? And the director said, okay, you're only going to pretend slap him. And we're in the kitchen and where the scene is started and everything. And I don't know what happened, Marcus, but all of a sudden I forgot about, how we had practiced the slap, and I hauled off and hit him. I felt so bad after too. And I apologize, but I tell you, the take was great, right? Anything for the film.
So I feel like you like kind of like impromptu.
Yes.
On the cusp of like with theater and then with being a comedian. Okay. Yeah, I feel like that's more like free flow is more you lean toward.
And I've taken all of these platforms, right? And it leads me into what I'm doing now. I'm doing documentaries to raise awareness, all right? So one of the first documentaries I did was called Fragile Beauty, and I went to the southern part of Ethiopia. Have you ever traveled to that part of the world?
I've been to I actually a Navy vet. I was in I was in Kenya. I was in Nairobi. We did some humanitarian things in Nairobi, Kenya. So I spent a good amount of time in Nairobi.
Sure. So I've been to Nairobi, but the southern part of Ethiopia has got indigenous people that have been living the same way for hundreds of years. I am not kidding you. They are completely painted. All right. They don't have currency. They take care of cattle. And I wanted to tell their story because in this day and age that you can have, there's somewhere between 22 and 26 different tribes. And when I tell you different, the body paint, the scarification, it's different from group to group to group. And it is completely fascinating. And I wanted to go down there and tell the story of what modernization, right, in places like Ethiopia is doing to these people. And initially I went there to just show how gorgeous, the body painting, the use of the natural elements, taking ram's horn, wrapping flowers around them. I mean, we're talking people that look like this every day of their lives. The Mercy people, those are the people with the clay plates in their mouth. Those clay plates are in their lip all of the time. That's right. You've seen that. It's very popular. And can you imagine every day of your life, you're painted, your plate is in, and I tried to explain to people here, and they said, well, wait a minute, they probably put on their costumes for you. That's really insulting, okay, that people believe that. And through my film, I wanted to raise awareness, and we certainly showed it. We went and stayed with them and showed, no, this is how these people live their lives, all right? They only have a currency, which is a cow. They will trade a cow or a goat. That's how they pay for things. And one particular village we were in where the Karo people were, my translator came over to me and said, do you have any malaria pills? And I was about to give my malaria pills. And he said, no, do you have extra ones? I said, no, why? And he said, well, one of the men in the village, his child has malaria and she's dying. Right, she's dying So this is heavy stuff. So he brought the man over to us, and I said to my translator, okay, where is the malaria medicine? What do we need to do to get medicine in this child? And he said, well, there's a clinic 2 miles away. And I said, okay. I said, fine. And he said, but the father won't take her to the clinic because he has no money to pay for the medicine. Marcus, I turned to the translator. I said, how much is the malaria medicine? $10.
Wow.
At that point, we had to convince the father and the little girl to get in our Jeep, all right, and go with us 2 miles away. So the difference between her living and dying was 2 miles. Can you believe that?
That's insane.
It's insane. And it made me so angry. And I think we left off like $50. I got the little girl her medicine. By the way, her father, he loved her dearly, but he didn't want us paying for it. He didn't know us. We were strangers. So we had to finally convince him we were okay. And I had the translator tell him that we were giving it to him as a gift, that he allowed us to come to his village. We wanted to give him a gift of malaria medicine, and then it was okay. So the little girl got the treatment. There were some other people there that needed medicine that we were able to get medicine for. But this is what people don't realize about these parts of the world. It's crazy, and I want to get the word out there. You know, I'm an advocate. I raise awareness, and now I can do it through film.
And and this is part of your visual diaries, correct?
Yes.
Just showing people, and I think
Yep.
that's awesome because, unfortunately, I tell a lot of my friends, especially my American friends, is that, you know, we have the Pacific and Atlantic Ocean, and the world doesn't necessarily revolve around us. And it's good that once you get out in the world and you're the foreigner, it definitely changes the way you think about the world and perceive the world.
Yes, absolutely.
And I had a question.
Yeah.
With their tribal life, did it seem much simpler and like a easier way of life, not having certain technologies and distractions? I just feel like in my mind, it would be a simpler, kind of easier way of life in some aspects.
Yeah, and you know this, if you spent time in Kenya and you went to the Mara where the Maasai are, to your point, it would have been simpler, but here's what's happening in Ethiopia. There's this huge dam that's going through that's going to connect the Omo River into the Nile. Okay, this is big business. The Italians, the Chinese, and the Ethiopian government are behind it. And what they're doing is taking these tribal people off of their ancestral lands. Right. And their ancestral lands are also where they grow their food and everything. So it's a complete upheaval, and moving them closer to other tribes. So it's like relocation. And that simple way of life is now becoming challenged because they can't get the water they need all the time. All right. They can't grow the food that they grew in certain areas. And again, I emphasize indigenous people in these groups, they're all different from each other. Each group of the 22 or the 26, they're all different body painting, different kinds of scarification, different rituals. All right. So by moving all these people closer together, the thing that really was most shocking to me, everybody had guns. Everyone had AK-47s. And I would say that was the biggest challenge, because I had to believe in my heart of hearts when I saw that we were going to go in there and be accepted and be allowed to take still pictures, make video, and no one would turn a gun on me. And that's a big thing to ask of the universe. And I did. I said, please keep me safe, keep us safe. There were guns everywhere. And one day when we were shooting, this was so funny. We had gone like a few miles away from the village, and I got beer and Coca-Cola for everybody. In addition, I always pay the people in any of the remote parts of the world that we shoot in, even though they don't use money per se as a currency, they will take it to the market, to buy personal items now. And I came back from where we had gone with cold Coca-Cola and beers and everything, and we went into the giant hut that was for the village where everyone met, and I made everybody put their guns down in the middle of room in a circle before we would like have our Coca-Cola and beer together, that like, and I had the translator explain to the people that it made me just feel better, that we would be drinking together and sitting together, but not to have the guns there at that point. And they did it, which was really, really cool.
Wow. And that's impressive. And then that's the element of no fear, right? Not having any fear.
How's that for a visual diary? You can only imagine it.
And I see that you also travel a lot to the Peruvian Amazon. I'm pretty sure that's a great experience as well.
Okay, so that's, so the two platforms right now for me, people in remote parts of the world and wildlife. And the Peruvian Amazon, what's going on down there. The Amazon is being cut down.
Yeah.
All right. And with that affects both the indigenous people, all right, in Africa, people that have their traditions, they've lived that way for hundreds of years. Their land's being confiscated. They're being forced into the cities. They have no skills, to go into the city. They do just fine in their villages, all right? You talk to these people about traditional medicine. Let me tell you something, Marcus. I have seen people use cures for things, that with plants in the rainforest that just look like, to you and me, would look like a bunch of leaves. All right. And these plants are really, really potent. These people have their own way of being educated, and now they're being challenged. Okay. The animals, the monkeys, the sloths, even the fish, everything right now in the world we're living, and it's up for grabs, and it's crazy. So that I hope, what do I hope? I'm such a dreamer, right? Rose-colored glasses, that through film and advocacy, and I speak on these things, I'm hoping that more people will donate to really good causes to help people continue to live as best as they can their traditional way of life.
Yeah, and I applaud you for that. And one beautiful thing is, like, now with technology, there's more platforms that you can speak to and show your visual diaries and reach a whole world in essence. And you've done so much, and your brand and what you've done, I'm pretty sure that people pay attention. I mean, you're a people person, you're an observer, you know what people like, and
yes,
wow, I applaud that you use your talents for the good of humanity. My next question is, because I also see that you're a country decorator.
Oh gosh. I knew you were going to ask me this, and I'm like, okay, how am I going to explain this? So
yeah.
I live in New York City, but my apartment looks like the inside of a house that you would see in the country with, old brooms, I collect rabbits. I've got collections of rabbits everywhere. I'm just like looking around the room that I'm talking to you in, dried flowers everywhere. And the piece de resistance of my country decorating, I have 2 English Angora rabbits that are loose in my apartment. The one just hopped by while you and I were talking. They're loose. Wow. And they're part of the scheme of things here, because New York City is like a rough place. So if I come home at the end of the day and I have all of these great things, like I collect plates and I hang them on the walls, old plates, shadow boxes. So there's nothing in my apartment that would even remotely scream New York to you. I took actually old doors, and I had the middle of them carved out in leaded glass put in the middle of them that I got from flea markets. I have so many things in here that have been collected from flea markets. None of it is expensive, but it certainly gives that country look that I psychologically need to live in New York. It's my happy place.
So it's like your escapism from the Big Apple, if you will.
Total escapism from the Big Apple. And I know you wanted a tip on country decorating.
Yeah.
Don't have rabbits and a cockatoo in your apartment, because mine are loose and they're eating the house. They are absolutely eating the house. There's not one piece of furniture or a molding that doesn't have a piece missing from it.
And also,
everything's chewed.
And you talk about the rabbits, so in your house is also a petting zoo as well?
It is. It says a petting zoo. And again, it works for me because I'm only friends with people that get me and my love for animals, and that want to be around them as much as I do.
So with everything that you've done, and as with all of my great interviews, I knew, once Jimmy introduces, I was like, this is going to be a very good interview. There's so much
realness.
I want to ask, because I like, one thing that I appreciate is that, the no fear, and you seem like you're very open to the world. And I wish that, everybody, especially in these times, was open to the world and accepting, and you have to keep open mind, because I tell people, your way of life isn't necessarily the right way of life. It's just the way of life. What would your advice be to somebody that's listening to this podcast and they get inspired by what you do in your story and like, wow, I want to be exactly like Wendy Stuart. I want to be an actress. I want to be a brand ambassador. I want to be a comedian and use my talents for the greater good of humanity. What would be your advice?
There's two pieces of advice, okay? Every day, do one new thing. One new thing. It doesn't matter what it is. Walk into a new neighborhood. Talk to somebody that you'd never talked to before. Read a book that you might never want to read just to get the experience out of it. That's number one. Okay, so open yourself to one new thing a day. And you'd be surprised how hard that is for people. Okay, and the second thing is make a list of your dreams. All right. I have people do dream boards, right? But I have lists of my dreams, and I keep them by my bed, and I look at what is on that list, and I think to myself before I go to sleep at night, I put it in my subconscious. How can I accomplish that? All right. Don't take no for an answer. Marcus, you are talking to a girl that was turned down by every model agency in New York. All right, I really started from the bottom on my way up. Nothing's been easy. And look at me here now, right? I truly am the last model standing.
Wow, and that's something to very appreciate and applaud. And out of your career, what has been the most rewarding moment that you would say?
Out of my career, which is still evolving, growing, making these films, going to remote parts of the world, coming back and sharing stories that nobody else is telling, that is probably for me the most significant thing, because I'm a person that people listen to. And if I can raise awareness through my life experience, then I'm golden. My current film that I'm working on, it's not in some exotic place in the world. It's called Working Dogs, a love story. I started it a year ago, and it's about the human-dog bond and the dog-human bond with working dogs, which are service dogs and therapy dogs, how they affect the lives of the people, how they help them, such as you could have a dog, if you were a diabetic, the dog would remind you when you needed to take your insulin. Yes, you can get a dog that will do that for you. I most recently was at a library where the program was kids reading to dogs. Why do kids have to read to a dog? Well, some children have problems reading in the classroom. They may be unbelievably shy. They may have some kind of challenge in reading. But guess what? You read to a dog, the dog is not going to judge you. All right, and this particular dog, a Doberman named Eris, he just sat there and the kids would come in. Each kid got 5 minutes to read the book of their choice. And you watch their confidence level grow. So I believe that by getting my films out there, that's probably the most significant thing that I can do right now, and be able to speak about what I'm doing and share that with people. That makes me the most proud.
Wow. Man, yeah, you've done so much, and like I said, I applaud that you, out of everything that you've done, you push to help the greater good. And I mean, we need, in this world, we hear about so much bad. It's refreshing to hear about the good and the people that make a positive impact. Last question, or we have 6 minutes left. I was just gonna say shameless promotion. Like, what does 2020 look for you? I mean, what do you have coming out, and where can people hear more about you and all the things that you do?
Okay, so 2020, working on podcasts, working on more distribution for my book, She's the Last Model Standing, which is currently available on Amazon, working on possibly getting that book made into a movie because it would make a wonderful movie.
Yes,
it's very much kind of like Sex in the City, but very much a product of now. I have more film proposals coming up. I am a member of the Explorers Club in New York. There's only 3,400 people in the world that are members of that, and I'd like to go out and do some expeditions and, of course, make video on it. I love telling the stories of explorers. Every day there's people going up to the Arctic to find out more about climate change. All right. Every day there's people going into areas like the Amazon to find out more of what's happening to the indigenous people down there. I want to tell their stories. It's not just about me, right? It's about telling their stories as well. So I have all that on my plate. I've got a bunch of modeling jobs ahead of me in 2020. By the way, 2020 is like, those are amazing numbers. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Like when you say it, right, it feels so good. So again, my challenge, there's not enough hours in the day. And you're going to be hearing a lot from me, Marcus. I'm going to be out there.
No, I love it. Like I said, like after the show, I wanted to talk to you about the clothes shopping. I think that would be a great episode of Deeper Than Music. And
clothes shopping thing. And if anybody wants to know even more about me, because there's probably things that I've missed because there's so many, they can go to www.wendystuarttv.com. And there's all kinds of really cool, juicy stuff on there.
Man. Well, you guys heard it, the one and only Wendy Stuart. And Wendy, again, thank you for taking the time to just share your great story, the history, and then just the inspiration.
Now, Marcus, are you going to friend me on Facebook? I'm on Facebook. I am Wendy Stuart, and on Facebook, I am also Visual Journeys on Facebook as well. And I use Facebook a lot because it lets me promote all my platforms. And on Instagram, I'm She's the Last Model Standing.
Wow.
So there you go. You got my social media.
And I will be friending and following. So, ladies and gentlemen, another great episode with a phenomenal woman here on Deeper Than Music Radio. Wendy, thank you again. And this is Mark.
Thank you.
And Wendy signing off for Deeper Than Music.
Bye.
It's the truth. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music.